Hey, this is Daemon Hillin, and you're on the School of Hollywood.
Welcome to Season 3 of School of Hollywood. We'd like to thank you for listening and following the Entertainment World School of Hollywood podcast. If you prefer videos of celebrities, they're available on entertainmentworld.us. Please take a moment and like the podcast and subscribe. And if you have any comments or questions, you can just send us a DM on Instagram at School of Hollywood. School is now in session. Welcome, Damon. You have produced over 32 films, mostly in the action, horror, zombie area. What got you hooked into that area?
Oh, that's a great question. It all comes down to financials. I can make those movies and they work financially. So it's very hard to make movies in general. And it gives you like a one-up if you're making a movie that is financially prosperous. If you're making a drama or if you're making a comedy, sometimes it really doesn't translate overseas. So I usually choose a genre that people understand. People understand running, jumping, shooting, fighting. They understand horror. They understand being scared. Those things translate throughout the world.
So what's the sales route of a normal horror film from beginning to the end of the life of one?
So usually I'm working with a sales company to understand like what is the market needing. There are times where, like when I first started, like my first mistake that I ever made, all those Saw movies came out and I was like, oh, we need to do a slasher film, right? But then the market had already adjusted. And this is a film called Pernicious that I did. Market had already adjusted and I wasn't really paying attention to the sales side of things. I specifically was just trying to go after what, like The Picture of Hollywood, one of my first movies. And it didn't work because it was past the time of what the market is wanting at that time. So it's very important from the start to have a sales company understanding on the distribution side, what is it that the marketplace wants? So, it moved more towards the supernatural for a while. And what we would do is then we would create a log line, a synopsis, find a writer, a director, and put together a script that is catered to the specific genre, the subgenre in horror, so like The Long Night or that I did, or Ghost House.
So with the distribution, because this is a learning place for new producers and talent, when it comes to distribution on, say, a horror film, a lot of times distribution companies will come immediately before the film is sold. Do you advise that or not?
Yeah. So, my philosophy dealing with distribution and financing is I always want the sale first and then I just back into it. So if I sell a certain amount of money, then it's very formulaic. I've become very formulaic as a producer versus just trying to make something and then hope that it will sell later. However, horror is very hard. If you don't have names in your movie, if you don't have specific names in your film, then what happens is it's very hard to get the pre-sale that is needed in order to finance the picture. So
that's interesting that you brought that up, because that was one of the questions I was going to ask you, because I noticed in your new film, MANEATER, you have a good friend of mine, Nicky Whelan. And
yeah, I love Nicky. Yeah.
And then you also have Shane, who was great in Nikita and Gotham. Bringing those in there, obviously they have foreign values. Nicky just coming off starring opposite Bruce Willis. How do you convince somebody to do a horror film that has name value?
Okay, so yeah, the trick with MANEATER was that we were shooting a shark film in an exotic location, Maui. So it was enticing. It wasn't the traditional horror movie, right? So we're putting beautiful people on a yacht, like a catamaran, in beautiful waters, and they have, they're being pursued by a shark. So when discussing with the talent, it's a little bit of a perk when you offer that kind of incentive of going to the beautiful Maui.
So was that an animatronics shark, or was it a real shark, or what's the story on that?
Great question. So we tried very, very hard with to have an animatronic shark. The director Justin Lee was very specific, and we put a lot of money into having an animatronic shark. But you know what? Those are very hard. You have to have a team of 2 puppeteers. For our shark, we had to have 2 puppeteers, and then we had our whole grip team setting up these rigs so that we could open them better and pull the heavy shark in the water. But then you're running into currents and coral and all these things. So you want this really quick scene where the shark is and you're just in this water and you're so slow and it doesn't give you the effects. So we had to marry it between the animatronic and then VFX. So the idea was Jaws, practical shark style movie. Well, we did a little bit of both.
So did you go over budget?
Oh yeah. We did. We did. You know what? It was one of those films that it's a water movie, ton of water. The majority of the movie was shot on water. And not to mention the location that we had, it was very windy and it was right by an airport. So with all these factors, we were having a hard time moving along, and plus the current, and then we had to deal with safety and all these issues. So it did require more than what was anticipated,
So when you were talking about the CGI, was that the Unreal Engine, or did you do it in 3D Studio Max or Maya? How did you create the shark?
How did we create the shark? So we the VFX team out of the UK, they had worked on a previous shark film for me called Surrounded, and they had done a very good job on that film. So after we had cut MANEATER, there were some gaps, and what we needed to do to fill those gaps was VFX CGI. We needed to come in with a different approach for the shark. We really wanted the practical. That was what we set out for. Now, filmmakers, we have one shot. We're out there. We had 18 days to shoot a movie. You're trying, but you got to shoot. You got to finish. So it just, we did the best we could. We saw our mistakes. We saw where we excelled. But yeah, it was, the VFX to the rescue.
While you were shooting, did you actually see any real sharks?
No real sharks. You're always asking because you're in the water, and you're just well, so where are the sharks here? But didn't see any real sharks. We saw a lot of windsurfers and a lot of kiteboarders, but no sharks.
Tell me about the casting process that you go through with actors.
Okay, yeah. So we're usually speaking to distributors about what are the top 3 actors we should get. So we will have a list, and for our leads, we have to run names with the sales and distribution side. We narrow the list down. Once we have a list, we will then take that list and with the creatives, the director will go through and he'll say, I like Nicky Whelan. Okay, great. So then we go and we offer Nicky Whelan. And then he'll say, I like Shane West. And then we'll go and we'll offer Shane. And then, it's we have to get the first 3 on these films to really kind of greenlight the picture. So the casting process is working hand in hand with sales, distribution, and then offers. So, and it's always better when we could go direct to the talent, because sometimes going through agencies take a lot longer than just getting a direct read from the talent. And then we'll go deal with the agent. You know, that's always the best way. But sometimes you don't have that access and you go directly to the agent.
What advice would you give somebody starting out wanting to be a horror film director or producer?
So no matter what, you can't give up, and make sure that you love what you do. Okay. Because I've been knocked down so many times. And as a producer, the amount of fires that you have to put out on a daily basis, you really need to make sure that you love what you do, because it is not an easy job. There's some amazing things in like situations involved with it. You get a, you know, you could travel, you could see the world. But you have to be prepared to get knocked down, and then just take it on the chin, get back up, and then keep going.
Okay, a young producer comes to you and says, I have $10,000. How can I make a movie? What would you tell him?
First of all, I would say you have the right idea. You know, my second movie actually is Auteur, a film that I did with Cameron Romero, George Romero's son, and Tom Sizemore a long time ago. It was a small budget, $20,000 movie. It was done to understand the physicalities of production and to put the team together and to bring everybody together. You know, it wasn't about money. It was about creating a film. So if you have that mindset, that's the kind of mindset you need to be a producer. Look, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to do it. No, nobody's going to stop me. And that's what's required to get to the finish line when, you know, you're making movies. I would say phenomenal job, keep going and make that film.
How important is craft service on a low budget movie?
Food in general is like, you have to have good food, or, you know, or you have to have craft services, because your crews working their tails off. They run out of low on sugar. It's hot. It could be hot. They're running around. You know, craft services is like a very, very important thing. Making sure that they have like little snacks, nuts, finger foods, even Gatorade to replenish those electrolytes. These are all things that you gotta make sure that your crew is taken care of, and especially when it comes to nutrients and sustenance on set.
Yeah, I know that a lot of young producers think, oh, I can give them crackers and water.
No way, you'll get run off.
It doesn't fly.
Your crew will be the first one that you're gone.
Exactly. So what was your pitch to sell the film to distribution?
Well, it was my sales company, Filmbridge International, telling me that we need to make a shark movie, because that's what audiences want right now, are, you know, shark movies or creature features. You know, like I just finished a crocodile movie. There are these, so I was guided by the sales company, and then we went to Justin Lee, and at this point we've already made about 5 films with Justin, and we said, Justin, we need this, so can you please provide us with a log line and a synopsis, and we'll run it on the sales side. And then we locked down the concept, and then we went to script. So we did it hand in hand with distribution.
How do you, as a producer, because a lot of people, because of COVID, have run out of money during COVID. All of a sudden you're shut down for a week or two, and you've now gone over budget. How do you approach going to get more money on a film?
You know what? Look, COVID's really hurt independent films in the sense of like it's hard to make movies in general. And then now you're adding the COVID cost and COVID regulations. So it's a difficult thing. You have to budget for a COVID contingency. You just have to. You know, I just ran into this as one of, you know, I was just shooting a movie in Thailand and we had a COVID issue, and then you shut down, but you have to be prepared for it. And luckily my team was ready. We had everything in place, and we went down for a week and a half, and then we tested out, everybody was good. And then we came back and finished the film. Luckily there was only 1 day left, but, my co-producer / line producer, Amy Covell, she had that contingency in the budget. So with the way that things are now, you have to make sure that you have that contingency so that you don't have to go ask for that money. Now, if you have to go ask for that money, that's a whole nother scenario. And now you're going to get into deals that are not good, because you're going to be forced into something like, you know, putting somebody in first position, you know, higher interest rates. You're not in a very good negotiating position if you have to go scramble and find money at all.
Do you find it's a new thing with negotiating with actors to do points on the back end to bring them into a film?
Yeah, look, I think that agencies and agents really understand that, like, points are, you know, there's not a lot of net profits that are getting distributed. You know, you're having these foreign sales that are, maybe you have buyers that aren't paying the net points. You're not really hitting these huge net profits, you know. And with the distributors, when they release your film, they have a huge marketing, they have these huge budgets that they have to recoup that plus the number they gave you on the MG. So by the time you're so far down the line, and it's so many years later, everybody kind of forgets about the net profit percentages. So that's why you really have to make the movie for what it is, and just understand that, you know, you have to understand that this might be it. It might just be this sale. And if that's the case, everybody has to get out with their interest. You can't forget about that interest, right?
Yeah.
And then you can't forget about your sales fee. And then you can't forget about your SAG residuals that you have to pay. So those are all, you know, SAG residuals are gross, right? That's a gross number. It comes directly off the top. Your sales fee is a gross number too. So you subtract those gross numbers and then find out what you have left, and make sure that you have your interest could fit into that number. So it's a math problem.
So in other words, you want to get as much upfront as you possibly can from distribution.
Yeah, correct. Which and
that's where the advantage of putting the name actors comes in.
Exactly. Yeah.
Great. So if an actor wants to get in touch with you, say, "Hey, I'm brand new in this game," what would you suggest them to do? Make a short scene, or put something on tape, or
yeah, I think
harass your casting director?
You know, I think it's about drive. So we're always accepting submissions from actors. Whether or not they get the job or not, that's a whole nother thing, but we will accept, accept submissions. And I think that being in this industry, you have to push yourself. So it's like the producer that you were talking about, that, you know, that producer with $10,000, like, just do it, push yourself, go reach out to people, say, here's my headshot. You know, say, I'll work as a local, you know, even if it's shooting in New Mexico and you're just like, I want to be in your movie. I'll come work as a local. Here is what I'm very good at. Or, you know, like, so look at the genre, look at the things you can do, like special skills that you might have for that submission. But do it, submit. Don't stop. You got to. Nobody's going to do it for you.
Great. When can we expect to see MANEATER coming out?
Yeah, August 26th. So limited theatrically in the United States and Canada, along with you know, the usual suspects like iTunes and Amazon all across the board, and your cable on demand.
Fantastic. Where can people find you on social media?
Yeah, Instagram at Daemon Hillin. And then I literally just started a TikTok for like the behind the scenes kind of stuff at Daemon Hillin as well. So
I really appreciate you being here today on the School of Hollywood. You're an awesome guest.
I appreciate you. Thank you for having me on the School of Hollywood. It's been great.
Thank you for listening to the latest School of Hollywood podcast. We'd like to ask you a small favor. If you enjoyed the podcast, please like it. And if you really liked it, please share it on your social media. If you have any questions about acting, music, producing, and directing, feel free to reach out to us on Instagram at School of Hollywood. School of Hollywood is now part of entertainmentworld.us. Until next time, school is out.